so then I made the decision to have the lumpectomy and followed up with, I think it was 21 rounds of radiation. And things went well. And I guess I calmed down at some point because I started to participate in my care and treatment. And that was very empowering to me. And let's see, where should I take this? I was then scheduled to have MRIs every 6 months and mammogram every 6 months. The MRIs were prescribed because I had dense breast tissue, like probably every woman on the planet, but also my sister had breast cancer 2 years before I received my diagnosis, who, by the way, she was the first person in our family to be diagnosed with breast cancer, or any cancer for that matter. But because of her, I qualified. So, my life went on with 2 breasts, and I was happy doing my thing, went through the MRI, then the mammogram, and then when I had my second MRI a year later, there was some illumination on the imagery. And they said, Devorah, we want you to come in for an MRI guided biopsy because we want to make sure, we want to rule out that it's, anything we need to be concerned about. So I went through that. And actually, then I went to Spain right after that biopsy because my best friend lives in Spain. And I spent 2 weeks with her. When I came back, I was in a good mood. I was in a good place. But then I got a call from the nurse, which took me out of that good place. So I got this call, and she said, Devorah, we got the test back. And I was not expecting this at all. I thought they were going to say everything was fine. It was just some, errant illumination. In fact, my radiologist told me before I left to go to Spain, he said, I wouldn't worry about this. This happens all the time. It's not to worry about. You're fine. Turns out I wasn't fine. They said that I had, it was, at that point they were saying it looked like it was stage 1 in my right breast, with also a secondary DCIS in the right breast. So of course, when I heard this, I went crazy. Like I was as far away as I could be from my handy toolkit, probably because I'm human. And I couldn't hear a thing the nurse was saying. I literally, I think I was screaming, to be quite honest with you. I'd just gone through the radiation and everything a year prior. I thought it was over. I thought I was done. I'm a healthy person. I'm extremely active. I mean, all that stuff. I'm healthy. How could this happen a second time? This is ridiculous. Well, they then scheduled me for all these consults a week later, which was very efficient. And thinking back, there's another, blessing to put on my list of life blessings because it went really quickly. But I had a week to, as they say, do soul searching and do some mourning. So it was sort of like a cram course in let's get our shit together, our emotional shit together, and figure out what Devorah needs to stay healthy and empowered and positive and all of that stuff. So I started looking at photographs of women who had gone through double mastectomies, because in my head it was like, okay, first it was the left breast,
Right.
now it's the right breast. I mean, I don't have a third breast.
It's never going to end. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who knows? that's the question. Is it going to end? Is a lumpectomy really going to help? I understand the statistics that, removing the breast doesn't drop your, it doesn't necessarily drop a recurrence rate by a lot, but my head was like, wait a minute, why do I need these things? So I spent that week looking at women who lived a life without breasts. I mean, for me, there was no way I wanted to recreate my breast mounds. First of all, because I wouldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
Second of all, I don't like the idea of having foreign objects in my body. Third of all, I like me. Like, I like the way I am. So there was no need for me to put something on top of me. The other thing is, who would I be doing this for? It certainly wouldn't be me. And so I was trying to be me focused, because I think that's the point. You've got to ask yourself, what do I want? Granted, I'm over 50, so, I'm not going to have babies anymore. No one needs to nurse on my breasts. I mean, sexually, again, even if I had artificial breasts, it's sort of the same deal. Well, actually, my opinion, but again, everyone has their own opinion. My opinion, it might even be worse, because I'm not even sure that you could feel any touch on the artificial breasts. I was assuming that if I just had my chest wall and naturally reconstructed, there was hope that I would, be able to be stimulated on my own chest. So those were sort of the factors I was thinking of. But more than anything, I didn't want something that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And so I spent this week looking at all these photographs, and I was shocked, because I had never seen it before. I didn't even know that it was called flat. Like, at that point, I was literally virgin. I walked into this
flat virgin.
I wasn't yet a flat virgin. Well, I don't think you could call me a virgin to begin with. But
anyway, forget about it.
Virgin territory, let's put it that way. And I admit, I was sort of stunned, because I hadn't seen it before. So, and I cried a lot. I really cried a lot. But I gave myself permission to be that way. And that was very therapeutic, because it helped my body relax. If you don't let your emotions out, if you bottle them up, and I'm sure, people have said this in so many different ways, you create stress and strain on your body and on your mind. And there's no mind bloom when you are one ball of stress. You can't relax. So I just let it all out. And by the time I went to my surgical consult, I knew exactly that this was the right thing to do. Not that I didn't before, but I needed to mourn. It's not normal to not mourn loss.
Absolutely.
It's important. In fact, I think it's critical to mourn loss, because that's how we empower ourselves to get past the loss, to live side by side with the loss in a healthy way. And so that was sort of my purpose with that week of, grieving and thinking about not having breasts.
Of course.
And so then I had the consult, again, lawyered up. That's because I love these people, it wasn't because I wanted to scare off my surgeon, but he was very, Dr. Ted James from the Beth Israel Medical Deaconess Center here in Boston, who's an amazing surgeon, an amazing human being. He's just fantastic. When I first met him, he embraced the crowd. He's like, everyone come on in. And that was the first thing that impressed me, that he accommodated me and what I needed. If I had brought in 20 people, he would have been, let's go into the auditorium. Let's talk about Devorah's breasts. I mean, he really, really soothed me by welcoming everybody. The second thing that soothed me was he said to me, "What do you want?" And this is my role. And he clarified that he wasn't there to make my decision, but to assist me. And that's what we refer to as shared decision making, which I have a slight problem with that only because I'm a lawyer. And when I think about shared decision making, it doesn't ring right in my lawyer ears. But the concept is that it's a partnership between the doctor and the patient, with the doctor explaining all of the relevant information the patient will need to make an informed decision. And that's basically how it went down. And after he told me what his role was and that he was there to provide me with all the information I needed to make the decision that was right for me, I said, you know what? I don't want my breasts. I want you to remove them, both of them.